Javier and Erwin. The next names are tough to pronounce even for me, so you would go with Javier and Erwin. They're amazing people. They work hard in Scory. Erwin was the Scory D for the past term, and Javier was working in his team, if I'm not wrong. He also is serving right now as the Vice President of External Affairs for IFMSA Honduras.
Yep.
Yes. And now I will give the mic to you both, starting from Erwin, if you would like to say a few things about you.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much, Maha, for the introduction. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for coming to this webinar or presentation. I really hope that you learn a lot from this, and we can clear out any doubt or question that you guys have. We're more than open to receive any type of question you guys have. We'll try to answer it to the best of our ability. I've been working in Scory for quite some time. It's been almost 4 years until last year. So yeah, I like to believe that I know some things about it. So I'm really hopeful to clear those doubts for you guys. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you.
Thank you. After you, Javier.
Thank you, Erwin. It's for real a pleasure to be here with you. As Erwin was saying, I really hope this session can be very productive to you, that you learn a lot, and most importantly, that you end up very motivated and with many fresh ideas on how to work on Scory at a local, national, or even international work. It's really curious because when I became an interim NORI in my NMO, Erwin was serving as regional assistant for the Americas. So there's where my relationship with Erwin started, and having meetings and him helping me activate Scory in my NMO. And it was very nice. And yes, last year we had the opportunity to work together in the IT. And I was working as a Scory external development assistant. And that's one of the focus areas we're going to be discussing today. So that's from my side. I'm really happy. I'm really privileged to be here. And I really hope you guys can enjoy the session.
Thank you, guys. Rumail, are you in the call? If you are, can you please play the video, and then we can start our webinar. If not, I can play the video. Rumail, are you here? Okay, I'm going to play the video that the team made, and then we can move on to, pardon me, you're going to see your faces. Here you go. Now I'm going to give the space to the speakers. It's all yours for the participants to learn, and then we will have Q&A at the end. Speakers, you have the floor.
Okay.
Let me present if you want.
Thank you very much. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, there you go. Okay, so welcome everybody. As we were saying at the beginning, the main purpose of today's session is that we understand a little bit more how Scory works, how this standing committee works, how research is impulsed and motivated, and how we engage our students everywhere, pretty much in research, and not just in research, but also in the exchanges part of it. So this is going to be basically a Scory 101 session. And once again, it's a pleasure for Erwin and I to be delivering this session. So to begin, we have a pretty basic question. And the question is, what is Scory? And for this, we have a small activity or dynamic. And if you are in your cell phones or in your computers, please, can you go to this webpage you can see here? I'm going to write it here also on the chat. And we wanted to ask you, like, in one word, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of Scory? Like, if you have a basic notion of what Scory is, if you are already an experienced member, like, what is the first thing that actually comes to your mind when you hear about this standing committee? So if you could go to the link you can see in your screen, or if you could also go to the link I just put in the chat, then we would like for you to participate there. Okay. Nice. I'm going to give it a few more seconds. Don't worry, continue answering. And for me, it's very interesting how whenever we learn about this standing committee, or what is the basic perception that each of us has about Scory, and as you can see, of course, and you can see it in the middle of the screen, the main words are research and exchange, which is pretty much the definition of the standing committee. But I also like how everyone else pictures Scory as innovation, as an international program, as a program where you gain experience, where you have leaders and develop leadership, where you have discovery proposals, where you have interaction, medicine, education, and basically Scory is all of that. And when the standing committee was first created, which is something I'm going to talk to you about, and how it has been developing through the years, it's basically to give the opportunities, the medicine students everywhere, to have not only the opportunity to learn about research, but also to learn about how research is done in other countries, to collaborate internationally with maybe another region, another continent, to experience how medicine is done in other countries, and pretty much learn about all of these processes, all of the different methodologies used in other countries, in other universities. So it's pretty much a compilation of all of the words you have just mentioned here. And when we begin talking about some general information of Scory, this is like the baby standing committee of our federation. It is the youngest committee. It was the last one to be created in around 1991, and it was created as Scory. So this name at first it meant Standing Committee on Elective Exchanges, if I'm not mistaken. And later on, around 1998, it gained its final name, which was Scory, because that was the period of time where it was structured to be mainly about research. And the program, like in general words or in general concepts, it's an opportunity to develop or to go on a 4 or 8 week exchange to another country and participate on a pretty much international project. Now, when you think of it in this perspective, you're just not learning about research and participating in a research project like you could maybe do in your university or in your country, but you're actually learning about medicine and education in other countries. And there are a lot of opportunities in there because, first of all, there are projects where you can be an author of the article, of the final article. You can also present at conferences. You can present a poster. You can present summaries. And it's very interesting all the outcomes that students have, and not only the outcomes that you gain from the program, but also how that 4 or 8 week process, in the way in which you participate in that project, you actually learn about new techniques, or you actually take part into procedures you would normally do in your hospital. And here I want to mention you something. For example, here in my country, we don't have a genetics specialty or genetics residency or a place in our hospitals. And I had the opportunity last year to go on a research exchange to Mexico. I was in Monterrey, and I was in the genetics department, and I was doing so many stuff I would never do here because we don't even have the different machines or processes to actually do it. So it was part of expanding what I was learning and my medicine formation. So you pretty much become a more holistic medicine student when you had the opportunity to learn about all these things you would not normally have in your countries. And just to give you some pretty general statistics, we have approximately, I mean, last year it was around 88, 89 active NMOs, which are national member organizations, member of IFMSA, that were Scory active. And the concept of being Scory active is that your country is offering a research project to which another NMO or another country can send its students to that country. So to do that, you have to propose a project, and it's something Erwin is going to talk to you about. So actually, currently, we have around more than 2,500 students engaging in these research projects. I remember that there was one statistic that mentioned that we had around 3,000 research projects in the database. Maybe that number has changed, but just to give you like a broad perspective of how big Scory is, and not only Scory, but when you also take it as IFMSA, it has the biggest exchanges program, the largest exchanges program in the world. So this is just like the basic and general information of the standing committee. And when you ask like, why was it created, or how was it formed, what was its purpose and its mission, it's pretty much to offer us future physicians, doctors, the opportunity to experience research and diversity in countries all over the world. And as you can see, this has like some specific objectives. So you can see, just let me put here. I tried to summarize the 5 basic objectives of Scory in the following words. So number 1 is responsibility for our own learning. And it's something you learn in medicine school, that sometimes you have to teach yourself some things, and you have to be responsible for your own learning and education. And through Scory, you learn how to do that, and you learn how to get engaged in this area. Number 2 is to provide students with knowledge on the basic principles of medical research. Number 3 is to provide this experience through different approaches to healthcare, education, research, and treatment. 4 is to, of course, achieve educational benefits of practical and, of course, theoretical knowledge in research. And number 5, it's about worldwide collaboration and partnership. So it's pretty much exposing ourselves and becoming global citizens and global medicine students, that we are just not limited to what we are learning, like for example here in Honduras, but I also can learn about what you guys are doing in your country, and I can take those experiences and bring them to my country and start new initiatives, new projects, and start to doing things differently, implementing new things. And just to mention, I'm just going to check. Okay. And just to mention, how is the structure of Scory like at an international level? As all standing committees, we have international teams, and we have the Scory director, but also we work together in medical education together with the liaison officer. So the liaison officer on medical education works together with Scory, with Scopy, and with SCOMI to try to integrate new educational activities, to expose our standing committees to new partners, to new collaborations and stuff like that. And in the international team, they have a general assistant, they have an internal and external development assistant, each one with its own focuses and objectives and projects. You also have regional assistants. So for example, we have a regional assistant for the Americas. There is a regional assistant for Scopy, for the EMR, for Europe, for Asia Pacific, for Africa. And also there is this singular body or team inside of the Scory International team, which is a supervising board. And the supervising board, like in general words, it's like the main core of Scory in the matter of the research project. So it's this team that is revising all projects being sent and seeing if they accept them or reject them or ask for suggestions. And it's something Erwin is going to speak further in. And regarding the communication guidelines, in case you want to be working at a national level, or if you want to work with other countries in some research initiatives. So you have the Scory IT here, which is pretty much all of this. And the Scory IT, through its regional assistants, or depending on what you want to work on, they communicate directly with your national officer for research exchange, which is the main person like in charge of Scory for your country. And these national officers have their own local officers on research exchange through their local committees. And then we are here. The rest of the members, we actively participate or engage with the Scory activities. And if you want to work, for example, with other NMOs, then you can do it through this structure. You can do it through your NORI, contacting other NORI. But if you want to do, like, for example, a regional campaign or an international campaign or activity, then through your NORI, you can speak with the Scory IT in this matter. And to mention you about what research projects there are or are being offered in Scory, I'm going to leave you with Erwin on this part.
Okay, thank you so much, Javier. So there are a few things that we have to understand on the process of activation of Scory and the maintenance of Scory as an active standing committee on our NMOs. I've seen some questions have been going on. I'll take a little time just to answer these before we move on. About whether a student can go for a unilateral depends on the NMO. I will lie to you if I tell you that I know exactly the situation of IFMSA-Pakistan right now. But if they have unilateral contracts signed from the last August meeting, they would be able to, just like any other NMO. So it's not only IFMSA-Pakistan. If your NMO has signed contracts in the last August meeting, you will be able to go on exchange through this year up until March of next year. It doesn't matter which year of medical school are you in, or any healthcare student can go, actually, depending on the regulations and exchange conditions. And this goes to the third point. And if you need IELTS or you need TOEFL or anything like that, it depends on the country, or the NMO rather. Some NMOs have different NMOs have different conditions by which you go and do an exchange with them. Some of them will require some form of English certification. Some require a B1 or a B2. Some don't require it at all. Some will require that you know some languages other than English, just so that you can manage yourself in the country. Some will have different exchange conditions on documents you need to present. Some will require that you're of a certain year of medical school or healthcare studies and above, so you can go on exchange. So these are all dependent on the countries. If you want to check the exchange conditions, you can do so at the ifmsa.org website, and you'll have all the conditions for all the countries available there for you. You're welcome. Okay, so now we can go on to research projects, which is in the end what moves our standing committee. On the numbers that Javier was talking about, it was over 3,000 projects. That used to be before the big purge that was the change from the database, which happened about 4 to 5 years ago, where we switched and we increased the standards of submitting projects. From that moment on, some of them have carried on to the new format and the new system. And of course, some new projects have come to be. So currently we are having a little over 1,400 research projects active in the database. This is on verified information from yesterday. And you can divide the research projects in different ways. You can divide them by the research type, which you might have already seen in the video. Basic science, which will include anything from biology, microbiology, histology, pathology, and then you would go on to clinical research, which could be divided into with or without laboratory work. Some of them will require you to work, for example, in the area of surgery or in the surgical department for the extraction of certain types of cancers or biopsies, and then to study them and to do certain PCR work to look out for mutations or something like that. So that would be a clinical research with a laboratory work. If not, you would have a clinical research without laboratory work, which will consist mostly of chart reviewing and medical history checking and data gathering from files and so on. And then we have Global Action Project, which is one of the big initiatives and one of the big innovations that Scory has brought forth in the past few years. The Global Action Project is based on the premise that global health is very closely linked to research, and that different areas of the world have different endemic diseases or are affected by different types of diseases. So what the Global Action Project is trying to do is to increase the awareness of students from other countries to diseases or any type of pathogen or pathology that can cause a disease that's endemic in a country. Say, for example, that in some rural parts of my country, in Paraguay, we do have still some cases of parasitic infestations in children, or we have something like tuberculosis in very tiny numbers, but we still have them. So those are considered, we can consider them endemic because they've been here for a long time and we haven't eradicated them. But it's going to be really rare for somebody to see tuberculosis outside of a immunosuppressed patient in developed countries or high-income countries. So in that sense, Global Action Project will give that opportunity to that student that's coming from a high-income country that doesn't see tuberculosis much or doesn't see dengue fever, for example, that we've been having for over 20 years here. Gives that student the opportunity to learn about dengue fever. How does it present itself? How do you treat it? How do you work around it? What is the management of the patient? You get to see some patients, you do some field work, and you also will do some data gathering. You will work on some epidemiological aspects of the disease, trying to gather some percentages, morbidity, mortality rate, manifestations, etc. So Global Action Project is very closely linked to public health and therefore global health. So we believe that it's a very innovative way of trying to bring students closer together, not only to diversity culturally speaking, but also in what has to do with their knowledge of health and healthcare in general, on top of learning the way that the healthcare system of the country you go to works and what are its weaknesses and strengths. So it really allows for a very broad set of findings on every aspect, on the disease aspect, on the healthcare aspect, on the society aspect, cultural aspect. So it really is much broader than other types of research. And then we have the division by length, which is for a 4-week to 8-week exchange. This has been debated a lot over what would be a research exchange and what would be a research internship. It's still debated up to this day, the clear division between just a simple exchange and an internship in which you will be doing a lot more hands-on approach. And that line is still blurry, but for now we have decided to just divide it by length. In an 8-week exchange, you are mandated to have an outcome at the end, so either a poster or a presentation or some sort of paper that you can present. Meanwhile, in the 4-week exchange, you are not necessarily required. Not all projects require it. However, all 8-week exchange projects require an outcome. Of course, the 8-week exchange is also richer in matters of getting to know the country and the culture and meeting people and so on. And the work is longer. Therefore, you will be required a few more things from your tutors in that period of time in a longer exchange. We can go to the next one. And you can ask, okay, I have an idea. Like, I have a project, I have a tutor, I know somebody that wants to pitch into this. So then there's a whole process for it. First, you need to have your interested tutor. Something to have in mind is that there always has to be a professor or a teacher or a healthcare professional that will be tutoring this project. You cannot be the tutor of a project as a student. And they have to be linked to faculty, so they have to be part of the university, either as a researcher or as a postgraduate or a postdoctorate degree professor, or they have to be a professor in the just undergraduate level, but with some focus on research. So once you have that, you have to submit to them, you have to present them with a tutor manual. All these things are available through your national officers of on Research Exchange, or if you're not Scory active yet, you need to approach the regional assistant for Scory of your region, and they will gladly guide you in activating your NMO. So once you submit the tutor manual, the manual will explain to the tutor what is expected of them as a tutor for a Scory project. Once they read through it and they agree with it, then you can submit to them a project form, or you present them a project form that they are supposed to fill. This has to be submitted in a digital format to the Scory Supervising Board, which is that group of 5 people that Javier was mentioning earlier. And that Supervising Board will consist of people that have some level of experience on research and presentation or preparation of research, rather. And this is because the Supervising Board are meant to accept or reject projects that are presented to them. And there are 3 possible outcomes that are based on the project guidelines. All of this is available digitally over the Nori folder and through your Scory RA if you want to activate. So don't worry about that. They will guide you through it. About the outcomes, based on the review from the Supervising Board members, you will either have your project accepted, which means it will become part of the Scory Research Project database, and students that are signing contracts with your NMO can come to that project. It can be pending changes, in which the project is not necessarily rejected, but it requires some more elaboration, or there are some tiny mistakes that need to be fixed in order for it to be accepted. And then there are, in like very rare cases, a project rejected, in which the project is not considered viable as a Scory project. Like I said, this is very rare to see. It is more likely to see that a project is just pending changes or accepted. But there will always be at least 1 or 2 out of every 100 that are just plain rejected. And this could have to do with the writing of it. So definitely the way to write your project form is the most important part of it. And for that, we have some guidelines. There are some webinars from previous years from the Scory IT on how to fill out the project form. And there are also Supervising Board sessions every GA. So make sure to attend those and pay attention to those if you want to learn how to properly submit it. So that really is it about projects. So we can move on.
Erwin, if you allow me, I wanted to show you guys, because it's something that happened to me in Honduras. We were always like with the doubt, like, what kind of project can we do, or what are our neighboring countries doing that have like similar situation to us, that education and research is similar. So one of the ideas I can give to you is go to this page I sent you in the chat, which is the IFMSA Scory projects. And here you pretty much have all of the active projects for IFMSA. You can search, for example, depending on the NMO, you can see what other countries are doing, depending on their university. And you can also search by domain, like, just let me go here. You can also search by domain, like, for example, if you know that your university has a very good cardiology department, for example, you can search here, and only the cardiology projects will appear here. So you have here, for example, projects from Tunisia, from Spain, from Egypt, from Brazil, and it's a good way to get some sort of inspiration, or even like trying to replicate the project to a national extent, or stuff like that. And besides that, you can also search like by type. So remember what Erwin was talking to you about, the research types. So you can search here, what are the basic projects, what are the clinical with lab work, without lab work. And here, for example, you can see the global action projects that pretty much rely on the endemic sicknesses and diseases. So if we click here, for example, with the global action projects, then only these ones will appear. And we can search also, like, if I want to search which global action projects are active from maybe, I don't know, let's say Brazil. And I just go, for example, to see if then Brazil has active global projects. And here I do have, for example, assessment of anti-PGLI serology amongst contexts of leprosy patients in Anápolis, Geo, Brazil. And once you go inside of these projects, let's say this one, for example, and here you have like the basic information that the supervising board extracts from the project form you sent to them. So here you have the name of the university, who is going to be the tutor, the head, the languages that are required for the project, or in which they can accept you if you speak any of these, what would be the duration, the different months on which they offer the project, and some of the background techniques and stuff like that, and like what are the outcomes that they want from the student. And for example, with this project, they are expecting that the student prepare a presentation and a scientific report. And they also add, for example, some links, so you can read more about the methodology or about the disease they're trying to study, so you can prepare more. So this is just a basic a suggestion I wanted to make to this. And once we start talking about the Scory focus areas, you will see that Scory is very that's what I really like about the standing committee, because it has so much like different branches or focus areas, and this is something Erwin and I were going to be talking to you right now. And beginning with this basic one, we have educational activities. So what do we mean with educational activities? So besides working on the exchanges part, we also try to work as a committee that actually builds knowledge on the students. Like, not only the exchange students have access to this type of opportunities or to learning, but also offering our students locally or nationally the opportunity to learn more about this. This could be through workshops, this could be through camps and stuff like that. So just to mention some of the educational activities that Scory has developed, we have the first one here, that is critical appraisal. And this was a educational activity that the Scory IT of around 2 years ago developed. And it has a very nice outline and a presentation. And for example, the goal of this activity, you can request your regional assistant or your NORI to share with you the outlines. This is in the NORI folder, if I'm not mistaken. And for example, with this session, it's you teach your students, you teach your members how to critically read a research article, for example, and develop this skill, this competency, the critical appraisal, and learn how a research project has internal validation and external validation factors, if you can learn something that was published in the United States, and if it's really applicable to your reality into your country, you can judge the methodology and stuff like that. So it's one of the educational activities Scory has developed. The other one is on open access and open education. And this is something that our standing committee and our federation has been fighting for and advocating for. And it's to have access to open education, pretty much, that we have access to all research articles, to new discoveries, access to education. And it's something not all of our countries have, or all of our universities. So this is also a session and a small workshop on open access and open education, the different concepts of it, how can we advocate, what kind of activities and projects we can do towards this. And I also want to present you the medical education and exchanges. This is something most of the NMOs have. So for example, one of you guys come to an exchange, to a research exchange, or even to a scope exchange to my country. Besides what is required from you to be like in the hospital or in the research center, for example, we also offer you some medical education skills in your exchanges, so we can increase the academic quality you are receiving through the exchange. So for example, all of our incomings always here in the country, they always receive a sutures workshop, they always receive a CPR workshop, they can go to the emergencies. We take them to learn new stuff, how to interpret, for example, x-rays or tomographies. And it's part of the medical education skills we want to make our exchange students learn. And this is something that all exchanges should include, and it's something that you guys can work on. And if you start working on the logistics parts of your exchanges, like if you want to work together with your local officer, if you want to work together with your national officer and tell them, hey, we can offer this workshop to all of incomings, and start working on the methodology, who will be the people capacitating the incomings and stuff like that. It's something you can guys engage on. And Erwin, do you want to explain these last two?
Yeah. So about local and national short research courses, there are some examples. I can speak at least from the experience of my NMO here. In IFMSA Paraguay, we have developed a national school, sort of like quote unquote, but it's basically a 12-week course of research methodology that's completely online right now, and it's aimed at students of IFMSA connected universities, so LCs. During this 12-week course, we go from the basics of methodology and how to set yourself a research question to how to prepare an abstract and prepare for publication. And in this whole process, you go through which types of research you can do, whether you want them to be analytical, you want them to be descriptive or observational, or you want them to be experimental, or you want to work on other aspects, or you want to work on certain cohorts. Then we go on to plagiarism, how to avoid it, what consisted, how to properly use references and search for references for your research. We talk about all the aspects of data gathering and analysis. And then we go furthermore to how to publicate and how to write your own paper and so on. So this is just an idea of how NMOs can develop their own programs to create those research courses that can be repeated every year, or they can be repeated every semester, depending on the demand you get. And in this case, in my country, we are receiving help from which would usually be tutors of Scory projects, and then some teachers of methodology or research methodologies from universities that are LCs in our NMO. So we get that help and we can make that happen. So we have that national research course. And a few years back, we actually developed some local research courses that were a series of presentations, like 60 to 90-minute presentations, and some 2-hour workshops that were with a hands-on approach. You had to bring your computer, and we would teach you how to use EpiInfo, or we would teach you how to use SPSS, or any other tool that would help you with data processing or so on. So those are ways in which you can enrich your exchange and teach your students, not only your incomings, the students that come to your country, but also the students that are meant to go in the future to other countries through a Scory research exchange. So that is definitely one way to go, and it's one type of educational activity. And then you got basically any activity that's done to increase research knowledge and capability. If you make one single workshop, it doesn't need to be a 12-week course. It doesn't need to be a 20-week course. If you do one simple course, one by one, basically, like basic research methodology, or how do I set my research question? How do I base my hypothesis? How do I base myself on a null hypothesis? How do I do my sampling? A simple workshop on sampling for 2 hours is more than enough. It doesn't need to be a full course, doesn't need to be national, doesn't need to be international. Just focus on doing things locally and at a small scale first. Once you got the small scale done and it's working well, try to expand on that, and surely the progress will be shown and the outcomes will be bigger. But basically, any activity that you do that increases the research knowledge and capability of your students, whether they're your incomings or your own university students, is worth it. So just start with that, with those educational activities, and then build on to something different, something bigger eventually.
And if you allow me to add, sometimes we have that problem that we don't have too much inspiration, or we want to know like what kind of projects we can do in our NMOs to increase these research knowledge and capability. If you guys don't know, there is a page for IFMSA where you can find all the activities, well, not all of them, but the activities that NMOs have registered in the IFMSA programs. So for example, if you want to see what activities you can do regarding, for example, teaching medical skills, which that can help you independently on which standing committee you are, you go here and you filter them, and pretty much it shows you like all the different activities on medical education. Here are also activities on research. You just have to look for them, and you can see like the methodologies they have used and stuff like that. So for example, if we go here and want to check the first aid training that Ghana is offering, wait, it's opening. And here you can see, for example, what is the contact information of the person in charge of this activity in their NMO, what type of activity it is, a training or workshop, its description, its focus areas, why was it proposed, what is the target, objectives, how to do it, how to evaluate it. So you can gain a lot of inspiration from that. So if it helps, there you go. You just have to search like IFMSA activities database. And following here, you also have the workshops and trainings, and Erwin is going to mention you how all of this works in the international and also national level of IFMSA.
Yeah. So about capacity building and exchanges, it's worth noting that there is a very big diversity of trainings and workshops that you can access or that you have available as a member of the IFMSA. And this goes from the very basic until what is probably the highest level of training in terms of exchanges, which is the TNET or the Training New Exchange Trainers. But let's go one by one. So we start with the PRET, which is a 3-day workshop usually. It consists of 24 hours of work that is divided, and you will have different sessions that go from how to organize an exchange program in your NMO to academic quality, and you go through ethics within exchanges, you go to advocacy and external representation in exchanges, you go and talk about marketing and exchanges, you will talk about motivation and empowerment, you'll talk about leadership. So the main focus of this workshop is mainly to motivate those that attend it. They will most likely be just starting out in Scory or Scopy. They'll just be Leos or Loris, or maybe just students that are interested or want to know more about it. So the main idea is to motivate and encourage them. And for these, you will see that exchange trainers or TNT trainers from IFMSA are likely to facilitate these trainings. And also you will see some experienced Noris or former or current international team members. Then you have the training new exchange trainers, which is having the main purpose of graduating, creating, so to speak, exchange trainers. The purpose of it is to teach how to teach or how to facilitate or how to train. So the theoretical aspect of the workshop is not as high, but we rather have a hands-on approach on how do we facilitate this, how do I make somebody understand this concept or this idea. We go through a little bit more of facilitation skills, we go through presentation skills, communication, we go through, what's the name of it? Conflict management, we go through communication guidelines, so a lot more specific topics and high-level topics that will help you as an exchange trainer and will help you to facilitate and present in public and in front of groups of people in a much better way. Then we have the Academic Quality 9 Steps to a Better Exchange workshop, which is, again, a 3-day workshop that's usually given during pre-regional meetings that is exclusively based on academic quality. And academic quality is one of the pillars, if not the main pillar, of both Scopy and Scory. And starting from getting good tutors and motivating them and setting the ground or preparing the ground for the work up until what is the concrete outcomes and evaluation and the impact assessment. Academic quality is what makes our exchanges be actually worth something to universities, and that it is actually a learning experience and not just a trip or a vacation. So during those 3 days, you will learn in very big detail about academic quality, and you will learn about each of the 9 steps, and you will learn how to develop each of the 9 steps, and you will work in small groups and develop each of those up until the end. So by the end of the 3 days, you will have that full academic plan or full academic quality plan for your NMO. Then you have the Scory Research Camp, which is our flagship event in terms of research education at the moment. It is done once per year, and it is open to all IFMSA members. There is a call that is open for all IFMSA members that want to attend it. This year it will be in Romania, and I think it will be in September, if I'm not mistaken. The call is most likely open still, so if you're interested, go take a look at the IFMSA Scory server on email, and if not, I can make sure that I forward it to you so you guys have an idea of what I'm talking about here. During those 5 days, you will do intensive work, and you will learn how to do your research protocol from scratch. So during those 5 days, you're going to work a lot, you're going to learn a lot about many different aspects of research. It's going to be much more intense than the 12-week course and just 2 hours per day, once a week. It's more like going to be 8 hours per day, 3 days straight, so it's going to be very tiring. But by the end of the 5 days, by the end of the camp, the idea is that you have a viable research protocol that you can replicate back home, or you can work on together with the people that you work with and make it a multi-centric project, for example. So those are the opportunities of the research camp, mainly as a big training. And then we have the Scory specific training sessions, which are aimed at different levels, but they will basically teach you different aspects of Scory and research exchange. Some of them are the supervising board sessions that we usually do in regional meetings and general assemblies, in which supervising board members will teach you how to fill your project forms, which is what I was talking about earlier. And then you got global action project training, in which, again, we do a little bit more of a hands-on approach and try to figure out which types of projects you can gather or you can get from your NMO, or in your area, depending on the endemic diseases that you have in your country or region. So there is still a much wider variety of topics. These are just the most important ones. But if you have any questions, we'll probably clear them out by the end of the presentation. So we can move on.
Now, also we have the external representation area, and it's something I worked on last year in the IT, and it's something I really like a lot. And you may be asking yourself, okay, so how can I work on external representation in Scory? Do I need to be a member of the IT? Do I need to be a national officer? Can I engage in XREP by just being an active member, an active Scorian? And you have different levels in which you can engage in this. So just to mention you, we have some tools we use in IFMSA. One of those tools is the policy documents. If you don't know what is a policy document, it's pretty much a document that states what is our posture and what we think as a federation. What? Oh. And we also have to, through the policy documents, we actually raise our voices and say what we believe as a federation, what we want as a federation, what are the problems that we are facing and identifying. And okay, my camera apparently stopped working, but okay. And we do have these two policy documents. You can check them. You can just search for them in Google, just like this, like IFMSA Access to Research and Research Education Policy Document. And through that, you can see all of the actions we recommend at different levels, at different stakeholders. So for example, when we talk about this, which is a global priority of IFMSA, we mentioned a call to action to researchers to start doing some type of activities or stuff. We also do calls to action to universities so they can buy for the platforms or motivate their students and researchers to only use like open databases or stuff like that, and also to make their curricula better, to include more research education inside of their curricula. So those are just some of the examples I want to tell you from this. And the interesting or fun part of this is that anyone can actually take the activities and suggestions we give here, and you can actually start advocating for them at your local level. So for example, if one of the actions tells that deans and medical schools should include more research education in their faculties, you can form a small group inside your university and say, okay, we're going to talk with our LC president, with our local officer, and let's ask our dean for a meeting so we can actually propose something on how we can introduce research education more in our curricula. Or maybe you want to recreate one of the workshops Erwin was talking about before. And by offering workshops on research, you are increasing the research education in your members. So this is one of the best ways you guys can get inspiration and ideas in how you can engage in this external representation of Scory. And also we have the open access, open education, and open science policy document, which is going to be renewed this year. And this is something we as medicine students and we as IFMSA advocate for, that we actually have access to all the different new discoveries, to new research articles, so we can stop using third-party platforms or programs to get paid research articles for free, for example. And maybe you can advocate at your universities and tell them, hey, why don't you subscribe our university to this platform? And through this platform, we gain access to research articles. This is something my university does, for example, through the Hinari platform. I don't know if you have heard of it. It's called Research for Life, a platform. So my university actually gives us to all of us. And through that platform, we can access books, we can access research articles, and don't spend on them. But it's something we can advocate for. We can do social media campaigns. We can work on physical campaigns, offer conferences in our countries, start working on national policy documents on these topics, for example, or national or local policy documents on any other topic regarding research and exchanges, for example. Another part of the external representation we have is that last year the IT created a research resources database. And what that database wanted to do, it's basically a spreadsheet where you have like tons of resources, of courses, of videos, of books, articles regarding research. So for anybody that wants to start learning research by himself, by herself, and start learning by their own, they can actually go to this database and they can start seeing all the different resources we added for them. They are mainly on English. The idea is to actually expand it more and gather more resources in other languages, but for the moment it's just in English. And also we do have these last two pillars. And when you work on external representation in exchanges, it's very important that you actually get endorsements from other organizations, worldwide companies or organizations, like for example, AMI, the World Medical Association, FENS, FIGO, WONCA, and we have recognition of all of them. So for example, if you want to go on an exchange, or if you want your exchange to be validated, for example, in your university, or if you want your dean to give you permissions, or anybody, for example, to give you funding for your exchange, or to help strengthen the exchanges program, the research exchanges program on your NMO, you can present them all of these endorsement letters that we have and say, look, the World Medical Association backs up the IFMSA and its exchanges. So by supporting me or by supporting our research project, you can later say that your university and your exchanges are being endorsed by the WMA. And that way you get more recognition at the organizational level. You get more students trying to get registered in your university because you help in the exchanges or stuff like that. It's different tools and resources that you can actually work on and use in your NMOs. And we also have advocacy in key areas for further recognition of exchanges and events. This one is mainly done at an international level, but you can also work on it at a national level. So going back to that example, like for example, if you want to work on a national workshop, let's say that you want to work on a national workshop like the one Paraguay does, and you may be asking, but how can our workshop get more visibility? How can it get funding? How can it get media coverage? And that's where external representation goes. You start contacting stakeholders, you make a plan, you can tell them, okay, if you give us, I don't know, $1,000 for the activity, we will make you sponsors, and your logos and everything will be on all of the social media of the event. You can have a spot in our event to give some words to promote anything you sell, for example, or stuff like that. And it's one of the ways you can get more recognition and visibility to all the things you can do in educational activities, for example. And not only for that, but also one of the things that we are trying to work since last year is on endorsing the research camp, the Scory research camp. So what can happen, for example, if an international organization endorses or recognizes the research camp? It means that it can get funding opportunities, which means that we can help the participants, the applicants to the event, on paying them for some stuff. We can pay some travel fees for the trainers. We can make the event more sustainable without us trying to pay X amount of money and stuff like that. And more importantly, it can be presented in different conferences, like for example, AMI, which this was already presented, if I'm not mistaken, or was in the plans of presenting it this year. And you can present in different conferences. What does IFMSA does for research education? For example, what does IFMSA Honduras, what does Pakistan does for research education? How do you work on exchanges and research? And you can present that at local conferences. You can present that at national conferences. And by doing that, you increase your visibility. And if you increase your visibility, then you will get more recognition, more support from your deans, and for all the logistics that are needed in all of this part of external representation. And of course, the Scory IT, through the External Development Assistant, through the Liaison Officer in Medical Education, try to contact different organizations to get different initiatives or collaborations, like increasing the academic quality of exchanges, like working on, I don't know, regional projects, for example, in the Americas, We have one a federation which is called FELSOSEM, which is mainly of science and research, and it's a student-based federation. And IFMSA has a regional memoranda of understanding, a regional document that says that IFMSA and FELSOSEM works. So us, the Americas, at the regional level, we can actually have many collaborations with them, and we can have activities, we can have international conferences with them and stuff like that. So it's part of all of the external representation you can do for the committee. And expanding more on the campaigns part, which is for me one of the best tools we have for everything, not just in IFMSA, but also in everyday life. Like if you want to get things, we have social media, and we have online platforms, and we also have physical platforms and spaces. And by doing different campaigns, you get more support, you get more people to identify with what you want to promote, you get more people to engage with the initiatives you're trying to work on. So IFMSA has, Scory specifically has three main campaigns. The first one is the Exchanges Week, that this is a campaign that works together with Scory, and pretty much it works like in all NMOs, and we engage all NMOs in them. And we have conferences with externals. We have a poster presentation of how does your research program works in your NMO. You can present videos from your incomings, from your students that have done exchanges in other countries. What do your country has to offer for other exchanges students? And it's very nice, this Exchanges Week collaboration. It gains a lot of visibility, all of our exchanges program as a whole. And we also have two specific ones for Scory. We have the Research Awareness Week, and this was something started about 2 years ago. And it's a campaign where you have like the 7 days a week, and you take each day, and each day you start increasing and sensibilizing the population on different aspects of research. Like for example, day one, why early exposure to research in medical school helps whenever you want to enter a residency. How does it impact on your curricula and on your application? Or how does research engagement in students then reflect on publications even when you're a student? And how do you help the growth of science of your country by publishing articles and stuff like that? And it's an awareness week where all NMOs can engage. You can engage. And the cool thing of this is that it's not only in online platforms, but while online events and conferences are being done, you can organize like an event at your faculty. You can put a stand. You can be teaching about some things. You can give a conference in one of your conference rooms, for example, on one of these areas. Talk to doctors, to researchers to help you in this part. And it's a very interesting activity and campaign, and it increases the knowledge for why research is important. And we also have an open access week, which is we collaborate with Spark and with the research coalition, Right for Research Coalition. And this is one of our, it's one external we work on with Scory. And it's a whole week explaining some concepts about open access, about open education. How can researchers work on open access? How does we, our students, advocate for open access? What can universities do? What can libraries and journals do? And stuff like that. So these are the three main campaigns Scory has at an international and pretty much national and local levels. Erwin? Your mic is muted.
Sorry. So just to wrap up and get into the questions, I want to very quickly mention the importance of both the supervising board and academic quality as concepts and ideas in Scory. That the supervising board as a group of people, as a body within the international team, is the one that's responsible for ensuring the quality of the projects that are part of our database and are the projects that students will take part in. So it is required that these people have a certain level of experience in research, both preparing it and taking part in it. So if you ever feel like this is an area that you're very interested in and you have the experience mostly with the research, always consider applying to be a part of the supervising board. It is always needed to have people that have a lot of motivation and a lot of work experience with research in order to fulfill this job. We currently have 5 spots that are rotating. During this August meeting, there will be a vote for 3 new members of the supervising board. And it might be a little bit too short for this one, but if you ever consider it, by the March meeting, there should be a call for 2 more members. So please be on the lookout if you are interested. And like I said, it has to do mostly with the research part and research knowledge and experience. So don't be afraid to ask more questions if you are interested or want to know more about it. And about academic quality, as a concept, like I said, it's composed of 9 steps. And if you're coming from an NMO that's currently Scory active, you will know some of the steps within it. The pre-exchange training, the upon arrival training, the use of a logbook or a handbook if you're in Scory, the gathering of the tutors, the way that we distribute our incomings and the way that we select our outgoings. All these are part of this academic quality. And again, worth mentioning the importance of it, because academic quality in the end is what will get you also recognition, because the more criteria and the more decanted or the more purified that your pool of applicants is, then the higher chances that your program will be considered a serious program, a program that's actually doing it for the gaining of new knowledge and not just for the vacation or the trip. So just emphasize the importance of academic quality within any Scory program, whether local or national. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
So we have this question for you once again in the link. I'm going to send it to you here in the chat. And we want you to answer this small question, which is going to help then for your local officers or even for you to know how to engage on Scory. But we have these different categories. How do you see yourself working in Scory? Do you want to work on educational activities and workshops to make the exchanges and your members more capable of doing research? Do you want to work on the external representation, contacting organizations at your university, at a national level, in your cities, gaining recognition? Do you want to work on the campaigns part? Like, do you want to propose different campaigns, even at the regional level, for example? Do you want to work on the supervising board and revising projects, being one of the members that helps increase how the academic quality and how the research is done in the NMOs, basically? Or do you want to work on the exchanges logistics on your NMO? Like, do you want to be in charge of coordinating what the incomings are doing in your country? If you want to help, what kind of activities are being offered to them? How different approaches can work on the exchanges? How do you see yourself working? And we're going to give you more seconds to these because we really want to know what is your main focus. Like, what do you want to work on regarding research exchanges? Don't be shy, you can answer. Okay, interesting. 5.
See, there's
4.
a big interest of educational activities. That's good.
Yeah, it's nice. I love it that they also engage on XREP. Yes. Okay, so as you can see, this could be used for follow-up. We can share this, or you can show this to your national officers. You can take a screenshot if you want, for example. And in this way, you pretty much can tell them, hey, I want to work on educational activities, or I want to work on any of the other areas, like the ones that want to work on supervising board. You can apply to supervising board on next periods. You can apply to being a local officer, then a national officer, then applying to the Scory IT if you want to work at the international level of our standing committee. And more importantly than knowing where you want to work right now, we want to do a follow-up question to this. And it's pretty much, in one sentence, it can be some words. Can you share an idea you have on how you will work on Scory in your local committee, in your NMO, or internationally? It could be anything. You can mention a research camp, you can mention a research courses, whatever you want, contacting organizations, talking to tutors, getting projects. What can you answer here? What do you want to work on? A specific idea? Try to form a sentence if you can. You can still do it through some words. Okay, nice. Perfect. Activity in your NMO, okay.
Research methodology workshops. There are some ways that I can contact get the people that worked on it in my country to let you guys know from your NMO. So I'll try to get that link for you guys so you can connect with the national officers in charge of this project.
I can also, I see that you guys propose local research camp. I can share with you some guidelines we have used in our country to have a Scory national research camp. And I can share with you a basic agenda we have on it and stuff like that.
Yeah. I remember you did it in 2018, I think,
Yeah.
national research
Yeah,
camp.
indeed. And last year it kind of changed a bit. It was a SCOF Scory camp. So we integrated more the part of public health in the research.
Nice.
Nice. Perfect. I see that you want to work a lot at the workshops part, the educational part. I saw that you want to work on the campaigns nationally or regionally. And I have seen some of you that want to work on recruiting or getting projects or actually conducting research in your NMOs. So that's nice. That gives us a big overview of what is the main interest, at least of the ones who are participating in this webinar, on what do you want to work on. And this could help to the organizing committee of these webinars to give a follow-up to these or to contact the specific people so they can pass this list. And as an NMO or as a local committee, start doing more activities regarding these areas that you want to work on. Okay, so Erwin, this is pretty much what we tried to present to you, what we wanted to show you, and how we wanted to motivate you to engage in our standing committee. Do you want to add anything else, Erwin? Shall we open the questions and answers?
Yeah, I think it's the best to clear out any doubts you guys have or anything. We're open to your questions.
Perfect. Thank you, speakers. Now, participants, if you have any questions, you feel free to write them in the chat box or write your names. You can unmute your mic and ask directly. We wait for your questions, otherwise I'll start asking questions.
Hey, and by the way, you don't have to limit just to pure Scory activities. You can engage in multi-standing committee activities, like working Scory with SCOF on public health research projects. You can engage in Scory and SCORP on working on ethics within research and stuff like that. So feel free to explore all those areas.
Okay, I'll add to Javier's point over here. For people who have been to the previous webinars of different standing committees, if you have interest in that and this too, there is a thing known as, the collaboration or parallel thing of interest between two standing committees. So if you want to have at a time same thing between two, you can ask questions, and if you have any queries, you can ask questions again. We have some questions popping up. Okay, so whoever wants to take this question about the projects, can you be a part of them or apply for them? I don't get the question. Can you please unmute your mic and ask it? Yes. Oh, okay.
I think I can try
Yeah.
to figure out the context here. About the project itself, it depends on what you're trying to say about the project, because you can sort of sponsor the creation of a project, of a research project that your university will have. And if you're talking about that project, then that project is for other students to come to your university and take part of that research exchange there. There are other projects that you can work in, that you can be a part of, and those are in other countries, if that's the case. So you would need to apply through your national officer on research exchange or your NORI. Just stay on the lookout for the call for outgoings, or when they open a call for open contracts or countries that you want to go to, so you can apply. And I'm pretty sure that they will guide you, and together with the local officer, they will guide you in the process.
Okay. So since there are no more questions coming up, I have two questions for the speakers. Oh, there is one. Never mind. Here you go. In Africa, research is now well incorporated into the medical curricula. I recently thought of having an awareness campaign to be done in the whole Africa, then conduct a research to have the concrete data. How best can I approach this? I am available for, oh, okay. So they're just asking how can they approach this issue?
I would like to know which NMO are you from, Tony? IFMSA, Kenya. Okay, so as far as I know, Kenya is not Scory active. However, if it comes to activities, you can still request help from your NMO president. So if you are in contact with the NMO president of IFMSA, please have your president contact the regional assistant for Scory in Africa, and they will gladly help you in creating an awareness campaign, or they provide you all the resources that you need. So I'll just write down the email address so you can email them, or you can tell your president to email them and get this information.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I just accidentally went out of the meeting. I don't know if there was any questions. Okay, there are questions.
Let's see, there are a few back up. So there was one question if IFMSA-Pakistan is also offering a research short course. The one I mentioned at least was for my NMO. I'm not sure if IFMSA-Pakistan is currently offering it, but I will gladly link up IFMSA-Pakistan members with the NORI and the NOMI, which are in charge of working it here. So if you guys want to replicate the project or the activity, then you're more than able to with the information that they can provide you. So I'll just get in contact with you, Maha, and see if we can make that happen.
Perfect. Okay, so there are a lot of questions for IFMSA-Pakistan that I would like to just add over here, that it's not yet Scory active. It will be soon, hopefully. The other thing is that any member of IFMSA, either Pakistan or international, can apply for the opportunities that are there on the servers or on the Facebook pages. You just got to be a member, and then you can be there. It just depends on if you get it or not on your application, of course. That would lead to my next question, that Brett is a like a fancy training in terms of Scory or Scopy. So what would your suggestion would be for the participants who would like to attend PRET? What do you see in the applications or the experience? Like anything you would like to say on that?
For the PRET, at least in my experience, it has to do with motivation more than experience. So just show that you're interested, show that you really want to be a part of it. Try to share a little bit of your plans. What are your plans for the future working in Scory or Scopy? You don't need to be a national officer, even though if you're a local officer or a national officer, you may get priority. But motivation is the most important thing when it comes to a PRET. And I would suggest that the NMO works on organizing a PRET so that your NMO members can have the easy of access to the locations and stuff. Something that usually happens is that over 90% of the participants of PRETs are from the same country because of travel expenses and so on. So if you can organize it in your own NMO, that would be amazing.
Perfect. Okay, there's a long question. So the question is, do we necessarily must have a proposal or an idea in order to participate in the research exchange program, or is it okay to collaborate with other people from different NMOs in a research?
Javier, I think you mentioned something similar to that. Do you have something for that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about proposing a project for the database, it has to be, as Erwin was mentioning, with a tutor from your university, for example, at a national level. One way in which you can collaborate with more countries in those type of research projects, it's by trying to contact, for example, the tutors or the national officers from other NMO. So, for example, you see an interesting project being conducted in, I don't know, IFMSA Panama, for example, and you want to replicate the project, you can get in contact with them. You can send them an email and say, hey, we want to also work on this research at a multi-centric level. So we can present different results, like you can present the ones from Panama, we can present the ones from our country, and you can do work on that. But if you're talking about proposing a project to the supervising board, as long as I have the knowledge, it has to be a project from your university. The tutor has to be from your university. I don't recall seeing any multi-centric projects in the research database.
As far as I know, there are no multi-centric projects at the moment, but it's something that has been discussed for a long time.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that answers the question. Since we're heading towards the end of the webinar, I would like the speakers to tell one thing that it always confuses me. So I think that it might have get the participants confused too. What is the basic difference between Scory and Scopy? Don't kill me, please, but can you tell me what is the basic difference?
Okay. Basically, the name says it all. So Scory for research exchange, and Scopy will stand for professional exchange. In the case of Scopy, the exchanges are clinical. So it's basically you going to the hospital in another country, and you will be doing a rotation, just like you would as a clinical student or an intern. Meanwhile, in Scory, you will go more of as a research intern or more of as a research student directly, and not so much as a medical or clinical student, but you will rather go do the research aspect and you will learn from. So that's the difference. It's clinical student on the Scopy exchange or a research student or research intern on the Scory exchange.
Perfect. Okay, so the last question. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I saw difference between Scory active and Scory not active. The difference is that Scory active NMOs currently have contracts or are able to sign contracts to receive students and to send students. Scory inactive NMOs are not able to send or receive students, but that doesn't mean that they can participate in other activities. And that's something that I've seen that a lot of people ask. If you want to go to the research camp right now, as a member of IFMSA-Pakistan, you can do it. You can apply for the research camp. You can apply for the Scory sessions that are coming for the online General Assembly. You can participate in PRET. You can participate in Exchanges Week and Research Awareness Week. So all these campaigns you are available to participate in, for sure. The only thing that you will not be able to do until you have signed contracts is go on exchange or receive an exchange student.
Okay. So the questions coming up now.
I mean, even Scory on active or inactive, you can still engage in all of the activities, as everyone was mentioned. So if you want to make a local or a national camp or something like that, you can host those activities and stuff like that. The only limitation you have is regarding the exchanges, per se, that you cannot send students or receive students in your NMO. And I'm also seeing a question that says, can you please guide us for a local research camp? In my case, when we made it, like the basic stuff you need to do is, if you have a Scory structure, if you have a local officer or a national officer, talk to them about the activity. Then I would recommend opening a call for like an organizing committee and distributing like some people to take care of the logistics, to get like the place where you're going to have the conferences. If you're going to offer food, then contacting people. If you're going to if it's going to be delivered by researchers, then have like a person in charge of the external and mapping all those important people, and another one for creating the agenda or stuff like that. I mean, I think the hardest part it's gathering the organizing committee, and then for the local camp as a camp, I would recommend having like a 2 or 3 day event. When we did it here, it was a 2-day intensive event. Like it was a 9-hour per day event. We gave them food. We had social programs. We had cultural night, and it was basically divided like in a theoretical module, and then on a practical module, where they had to create like objectives. They had to create a problem or a research question, where they learned how to create a hypothesis, for example, or just like a basic course on SPSS or EpiInfo, or how to even search for bibliographies and articles. So it's pretty much like gathering all those different sessions you can give and putting them together in a 2 or 3 day event, for example. In my case, we did it open. We did it for health sciences students, not even IFMSA members. So we had students from nursing school. We had med students. We had students studying for being nutritionists. We even had some engineering students that wanted to learn more about research, since we were talking about general research concepts. Of course, all of our examples were related to medical research and health sciences research, but they also learned a lot from methodology. And yeah, that would be my recommendation for that.
Thank you so much. So we stopped taking questions over here. Just last question for the speakers. Why Scory? You can share your experience. You can share why, like in a few words, why Scory from your side?
Okay, so I can begin if you want.
Yeah.
I do believe that research shapes medicine, and not only medicine, it also shapes a country. And we all need research skills. Research is the past, it's our present, it's the future, all the new discoveries, new treatments, new procedures. And I believe that research opens doors that you wouldn't get opened through just the normal medical education. You can get opportunities for presenting at conferences, for getting support from other researchers, from your faculty, from your university. When you want to apply to a residency, it reflects on your CV, and they tend to accept more people that has experiences in scientific conferences, in research conferences, that have published articles, instead of just accepting people that has like the greatest grades, for example. So it's I see it as a big opportunity for personal growth and also for scientific and medicine's growth. That's why I chose Scory and research.
Okay. As for me, I have a very strong conviction that it is natural, it is very human for us to question things. It is one of the most basic behaviors of us as humans to question ourselves. You know, why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green? Why is it dark at night? And why is there light during the day? You know, what are all these things? So it's just that this questioning just keeps on coming, and it's part of our nature, and it will never stop. It's something that for us as humans, the moment that we stop questioning ourselves, what is the reason behind things, is the moment that I feel like in some way we die. We stop being people. So I think that research is the answer of humans to that curiosity, and I feel like nurturing it and developing it and making it grow into you is, you know, it's feeding that curiosity, and it's trying to keep yourself satisfied. It's trying to, you know, feed your hunger for knowledge, for understanding what's going on out there. And I feel we all have that interest of knowing what's going on. So I feel like in every area of our lives, but in this case in medicine, in the area that we decided to work in or study in, I feel like it's important not only for us and to satisfy our own need for understanding, but it's also because other people's lives will be in our hands someday. And I feel like that curiosity is not just for us, but it's also for other people's benefit as well.
That was such a wonderful answer. So with that, I will take a leave. Thank you so much, speakers, for joining us in such a short time, preparing this amazing webinar and benefiting all the members here with your gigantic knowledge and experience. I would also thank the participants here for joining us again. We're still left with 2 webinars that the dates aren't sure yet, but you will see the posters everywhere. So of course that, and of course the emails too. So with that, I would like to thank you again. And this is a goodbye from our side. Thank you so much, Javier and Arvin, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Mahat. Thank you guys for having us. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.